Jennifer Webb-McCrae, and if you are from Cumberland County, I am your Cumberland County prosecutor. I'm so happy to be here today with a special program. It is National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and the theme this year is Support Victims, Build Trust, Engage Communities. So we have a very nice panel discussion to discuss victim witness advocacy and how that's delivered in Cumberland County. I'm excited to have with me Lorena Pelez. She is the Director of Victim Witness Advocacy for our office. And I'm going to ask her to introduce herself and speak for a very brief moment about what her office does.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorena Pelez. I am currently the Victim Witness Coordinator for the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office. I've been in this role for 3 years. This month is actually my 3rd year anniversary. Prior to being promoted to Victim Witness Coordinator, I served as a bilingual victim witness advocate for 12 years. I am a resident of the city of Bridgeton since the age of 4. So I've attended Bridgeton Public Schools, went to Cumberland County College, and received my bachelor's degree from Rowan University. And after graduating, just a little bit something about myself, after graduating from college, I started looking for a job, and I ran into an old high school friend of mine who told me that his mom worked at the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office and was looking for bilingual victim witness advocates. At the time, I was not familiar with the Office of Victim-Witness Advocacy or the services they provide. So I thought at the moment, it would be something temporary until I find something permanent. And little did I know that God had other plans for me. 15 years later, I am still here. I'm proud to be part of a team who is available to support victims and witnesses through crime by providing information, advocacy, and community outreach. To help make their participation in the criminal justice system less difficult. And I learned very quickly as an advocate that the clients that we meet, we're not meeting them by choice, but by circumstance. And I was reminded of that when I reached out to our participants, and particularly Kim, who you're going to hear about, after greeting her and telling her that, it's been such a long time that we last spoke. Her response to me was, Lorena, that's not a bad thing. The fact that meeting me under those circumstances was not, at the time wasn't good. And we were able to laugh about it now, but at the time, when we're meeting families for the first time after loss or when they are victimized, we're meeting them at their worst possible moments. And as an advocate, speaking for myself personally, I take pride in the service that we provide, and is the reason why I decided to make a career out of it. Because I took satisfaction in the ability to be able to provide somebody who can't provide for themselves, to be that person that they could turn to for help. So I'm excited today to be part of this session today, to get insight from our former family members, and to kind of hear from them as to their experience with our office.
Absolutely. I oftentimes say that our victims are only stakeholders who don't ask to be a part of our system. Everyone else in the criminal justice system signs up to be here: the assistant prosecutors, the judges, the public defenders, the criminal defense attorneys, the police officers. Our victims are the only sector that we serve that don't volunteer to be here, and that to me says that we have to treat them with a certain level of dignity and respect to make sure that our system doesn't re-victimize them. And I hope that our office does that. I'm really happy to have with us today the former Director of Victim Witness Advocacy for the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office, Mrs. Rita Carvolpi. She is a trailblazer in her own right in the field of victim witness advocacy, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself and her career at our office.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you, Prosecutor Webb-McCrae and Lorena, for inviting me. I'd like to say that I started the office in 1996, and in 2001, I was promoted to the coordinator for the Office of Victim-Witness Advocacy. I served 22 years before retiring excuse me, in 2018. It was the best career I could have possibly chosen for myself. I worked with some wonderful people at the office, and Prosecutor Webb McCrae got it right from the beginning when she took appointment to her position at the office. And that was that victims didn't ask to be part of the system. They were thrust into the system by choices other people had made for them. And prior to my retirement, I spoke to her and I told her there was still a disconnect in the services that we were providing to crime victims. And part of that disconnect was a support group. There are many private support groups you can find at your church, you can find within your community, but nothing specifically that dealt with grief recovery. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the program. But I wanted you to know that when I retired, I knew that my job still wasn't done in helping people. I'm a helper by trade, by heart. And I wanted to continue that work. Prosecutor Webb McCrae made it very, very available to me and Lorena to provide this service to crime victims in Cumberland County. So I hope that you stay with us through this entire program so you can learn a little bit more about what our office can provide.
So Rita, you're so humble. You also serve on the Violent Crimes Compensation Board, is that correct?
That is correct. I am a probably 12-year holdover now. I was appointed to that position by Governor Corzine, and I sit as a review board member, hearing appeals for crime victims when the agency themselves have denied their application for various reasons. It's a voluntary position. I'm not paid for that. But once again, I still continue to help people that just don't have the ability sometimes to help themselves.
Right. And if you could just tell our audience what the Violent Crimes Compensation Board does, I think that that will help them and provide some context for how we help our victims navigate the system.
Okay, the Violent Crimes Compensation Office is an independent office. It's government run through, they're located in Newark, New Jersey. They also have an office in Trenton. They provide services to crime victims should they meet the criteria of the application process. Basically, it's fundamental. It is you report your crime to the police and you file your application within a certain time period. Once they review that claim, if it is deemed eligible for services, then they can provide services, financial assistance to crime victims, such as funeral expenses. They can provide medical reimbursement, prescription reimbursement, relocation for crime victims if they're in a domestic violence situation. There's a various array of services that they can provide to crime victims once they deem their application eligible.
Thank you. So I'm going to go down to Matthew Rudd. I just want to introduce him to everyone. He is our Community Justice Coordinator. He's here today to help us navigate our virtual world, but he also is passionate about community justice, and community justice, I'm here, in case you don't know it, includes victims and victims' rights. So you're going to hear from Matthew, maybe interjecting with a few questions as we go along. I'm super happy to introduce our two guests today. We have two individuals who have become part of our family, our CCPO family, but who have had the unfortunate circumstance to have contact with our office first as victims. So I'd like to start by introducing Miss Kim, who I know very well, and ask her to just introduce herself and tell us how she came to interact with the Office of Victim-Witness Advocacy.
Hi. I'm sitting here. My name is Kim Green. You know, I got married a few years back, and in 2007, my daughter was a victim of a domestic violence situation, and that was in right after Thanksgiving. I think like 2 days after Thanksgiving, where she was almost murdered by her then boyfriend, who then ended up murdering a retired police officer. So I came into contact with Rita and some detectives the next morning after all of that happened when they came to our house um, to see my daughter. And if you don't mind, I just remember them coming. I was sitting here thinking about all this stuff and I'm getting so emotional already. But when they came to my house, it was just so warm and they were so nice. And they made everything feel like everything was okay. Like even when all that happened, the man was in the hospital. My daughter, it just was warm. They were friendly. They were friendly with the kids. They asked questions. They didn't blame her. They made us feel like we were important. And I knew in that moment that we was going to be okay. It kind of made me feel like, you know, a lot of times when you have the other side, you always think that they're not going to help you and that you're alone. But in that moment, when they showed up at the door, it was probably like five deep. And they came in there and met with my family. That was the best thing that could have ever happened to us. And so in February, when my son was murdered of 2008, the night he was murdered, I knew he was gone. Um, I knew that I could call Rita. I knew they didn't have to tell me. They didn't say you have this right. I said I need to talk to Rita. Vote. That's who I need to get. Can you please call Rita? Because I knew if they called Rita that I was going to be okay. And Rita showed up at my house. They took me to my house and Rita showed up. Here she come again in the middle of the night. I don't even know if it was the middle of the night, daytime. I was so confused. I'm almost sure it was that night. And she sat with me for a long time and she helped me she helped me prepare for my son's funeral. You know, the compensation. She filled out the papers for me. She made sure I got what I needed.
And Miss Kim, I appreciate you being willing to share because there's so many people out here in our community who have been in similar situations, have suffered trauma. And for you to be so open and honest about your experience and for us to see and witness how it can come back up so quickly, I appreciate you. I remember the first time I met you. I think it was because I had to come to your house and talk with you in reference to a plea offer that was going to be extended in your son's case. And what I remember is feeling trepidation because sometimes the criminal justice system and the way it works in our system of justice isn't always fair to the victims. And I left your house feeling like you made it easy for me to share with you that my opinion that what we had to do in the case wasn't going to bring full and complete justice for your son's death. And that just said to me what type of person you are and how special you are and how special your family is. And you've just demonstrated that consistently over the course of our contact with each other and the years. So I just appreciate you and the dignity and the term that I use because it's been used, like I admire it, is motherwit. People used to say that about my grandmother. Like she had an elegance and a dignity that transcended and made other people feel comfortable. And that's what you've done for our office and for all of us. And what you give, I know, every day in your work to the community. So we really appreciate you for that, and appreciate how you keep coming back and being a source of strength and light for other victims of very violent crimes. We appreciate you and we love you for that.
Thank
we really
you.
do. We really do. So
May
now,
I
okay,
may
sure.
I just add one thing?
Sure.
I want to say, and Kim, you know, it was kind of hard not to get emotional when I hear you talk. It was such a privilege to serve you at a time of need. And I said that the Office of Victim-Witness Advocacy is kind of like one of those best kept secrets. And people don't realize that they have this office to help them, to guide them through this process, especially in such traumatic situations. And, you know, the advocates just don't sit behind their desk from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. They go out in the field when needed and called upon, after hours, in the evening, in the middle of the night, early in the morning. And I encourage everybody to, you know, share that information with your family, with your friends, that if they are a crime victim, there is this agency there to help them.
And
just to add,
go ahead, Lorena.
I was just going to add that the Victim Witness Unit offers an on-call advocate who responds to sudden death and violent crimes. A detective from our major crimes unit will contact me and provide next of kin info. And then our on-call advocate will make contact with the next of kin to provide any immediate assistance, information, and referrals on a 24-hour basis. And as hearing Kim, I can remember exactly, because I was an advocate in training at that time. And I went with Rita to your house, Kim. And I remember talking to you. I remember the detectives, who they were. It was Ron Henry and Ed Bowen at the time from Millville PD. And for me as a new advocate, I also learned that, you know, it was important for me to know you and know your family dynamics, and find out what's important to you. So that was helpful to me as a new advocate. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
And just a thought, like, you know, I think it's important for our people who work with us to understand that these experiences linger and stick with our victims. So you can either start off on a good foot or a bad foot. And I'm thinking that maybe we should not have to, but should, and we want to bring you all back to talk to some of our younger detectives and some of our younger assistant prosecutors, so that they understand that they can start off on a good foot, or make us play catch up if they don't take into consideration that this is something that lasts with families forever. So I want to move over to Miss Diana. Hi and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and as much as you you know, feel free to share with us how you came into contact with our office.
Okay. Well, in 2016, my sister was a victim of domestic abuse. Unfortunately, she didn't have, I don't know how to say it. Well, she's not here with us anymore.
Very sorry to hear that.
So it was a loss for us and the family. At the time, I was only 18. So I definitely took it pretty hard. I don't remember a lot of the details, to be honest. I sat through a lot of the hearings, a lot of the arraignments, but kind of didn't really sink in. But the most that I remember is Lorena being there for my family, especially my mom and like my aunts who don't speak English. So she was always there translating, and just being really, really supportive to everybody, always being there when anybody had any questions, any concerns, anything. She was always there. And so was everybody else at the prosecutor's office. which was really lucky for me because I'm usually the one who's translating. But during that time, it was difficult to hear what everybody else had to say and take it in and then be able to translate. So Lorena was there, and so was Sarah. So we really appreciate them both. And that's it.
So one of the things that I think you're talking about, which is super, super important to us, is that in every facet of what we do, we want to make sure that our office reflects our community. And part of that is making sure that we have individuals that work for us that can speak to our bilingual constituency in the language that they're most comfortable in. So, you know, I'm happy that you were able to not have to do the translator duties, because we had Lorena and we had Sarah and we have several advocates who are Spanish speaking that can carry that heavy lift so that you can be there fully and engage in the process of you know, being a person who cared about your loved one and be able to observe what's going on. So I'm happy that we had that service there for you so that you could do that. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about the crime victims' rights law, which basically says and means that we have to keep victims apprised of what's going on in every facet of our prosecution. That means bringing them in regularly, talking to them regularly, notifying them of court dates, and notifying them of like information with regard to a defendant that we're prosecuting when they're in jail, if there's a possibility that they're going to get out of jail, and also the bind system, which notifies victims if a defendant is released from jail. So I would ask either of you, how did you feel the process worked? Us keeping you advised at each step of the process? Were there good things? Were there bad things? Do you think there are things we can improve upon? We think we work really hard at it, but sometimes it doesn't work exactly as we envisioned. How did you feel about that part of the process?
Can I say something?
Sure.
So I remember when you first came to the prosecutor's office and we had the 2 cases in the courts, and we were in the courts probably for like a couple, maybe a year at that time, I'm not sure. But I remember and I remember you were meeting with all the families, and I remember you wanted to meet with the DeGregorio family and also with my family. And I think we all met together. And then you wanted to meet separately for my son's case, which we had these 2 cases in the court at the same time. And I remember at that time feeling like, because you wanted to find out what was going on with the cases. We felt like, you know, they were being handled right. You wanted to know, you wanted to meet us. And I thought that was important. But what really stuck, I remember telling you, I didn't feel like, and this is just me being honest, and I said I didn't feel like that my young Black child would get a fair shake as opposed to this man who was somebody that was a stand-up citizen in the community. And I remember thinking, because of where my son got murdered at and the people that he was around, it was not going to be the outcome that I was looking for because of the circumstances, regardless of whatever happened, and that this is the reason why the cases could not be the same. And I remember y'all really working with me, you know, to make me feel like regardless of what color my son was, what color this other victim was, that y'all were really going to work hard for me, and y'all did. And y'all did. I left out of there. I've never, and I think that I was the type of, I always tried not to be the victim. What I found out is that I was the victim, but I didn't have to feel like the victim. And through that process of doing that, I found out that I didn't have to be like everybody else. I didn't have to show up at every court case. Y'all kept me informed. I felt like y'all was my family. Like, I don't even know if y'all know that. Like, I was so close to y'all. Like, y'all was so, I can't even explain it. Like, y'all were like really my rock in those days. I think I stayed in that office more. I knew Rita's office. I was on the phone with Rita and Lorena me and my daughter, you know, I didn't have to show up at every, I decided I didn't want to. I decided I didn't want to be the person that was at every, you know, going through therapy and talking about it in the groups that we went through, that I didn't want to be that person that set up in court every time. That I didn't love my son no less because I didn't go to court. I had y'all there to give me the news that I needed, you know. And so I'm saying all that to say that, yeah, y'all was very supportive through that whole process. I've never not had a question answered. Y'all always kept me in the loop when y'all got different things, or, you know, it's when, you know, we allow other people to get in our heads that don't really know what's going on, that you start to say, you know what, maybe they ain't doing enough for me. But then you got to go back to the source and who are these people and have they been there for you? So I can honestly say with all my heart that the victim advocacy group has done everything that I've ever needed. Like, I've never needed more. And I'm not just saying that, like, that is truly how I feel about them.
Miss Kim, do you remember there was a time where I came to, Rita took me to a group. It was a group of family survivors, mostly mothers. It was like a group therapy session with Joe, what was his last name?
Gorman?
Yes. And that was a profound experience for me, because sitting in that group with all of you, and it was mostly women, but there might have been a man there, and realizing that all of you had lost a child to violence, and feeling lucky, but also guilty because I never wanted to be in that club. And realizing that you all had experienced something that I had not experienced just was such a, in terms of my work, was such a profound experience for me, that it just made me feel like I need to do everything I can to make this easier for them. And I felt so privileged that you let me in and allowed me to come, and you shared your pain, because what it really did was humanize every single person who's been a victim of trauma, whether it was because of a loved one or personally to themselves. Allowed me to sit in a space where I said, I got to do everything that I can to fight for victims and their families. So I just, on behalf of the office and myself, I want to thank you and all of those other mamas that were sitting there for giving me that opportunity to just be still and listen to your pain. And I want you to talk just a minute, because there's a group that we support called, what is the name of it? It's Karen Barnett's group.
Mothers Uplifting Mothers.
Mothers Uplifting Mothers, that I know you participate in. Can you share a little bit about that group and why you participate with our audience? Hopefully we'll encourage someone else to come out when they start doing in-person events again.
Well, I went to that group probably like 2 or 3 times. And I really go, you know, when I was in the other group with Rita and Joe and the other women, I was the earliest one. I think my son had been going for 6 months. So I was the youngest one, you know, in that group, as far as the moms who have lost a child. And I think I had a pretty good sense. I had a pretty good sense of why I needed to be there. And I always felt like the purpose was not just for me, that it was for the other women. And that's why, and not that I didn't need the help, because I needed all the help I can get. And in helping other people, it just helped me get out of myself. And that's why I continue to help other moms. And that's why I used to always call Rita. And that's why I went to the moms group. I used to call Rita. I'd be like, Rita, another child got killed. Because once your child get murdered, or somebody get murdered, a sister, a brother, an uncle, then now your focus is on everybody that gets murdered afterwards. And I remember every child that got murdered, I wanted to be in that mother's life. Like, I wanted to go with her. I wanted to walk through it with her, because I wanted her to know that was my, like I used to always say, I'm glad that ain't my beginning when I see another mother lose a child, because the beginning times was the hardest times. Not that every day is not hard, but the very beginning time, I seen mothers and moms, they just lost their child, be like, oh, I'm so grateful that this is not my beginning. You know what I mean? And like, I can share my beginning with other moms. And I think that's why I go to these groups. And experience is awesome because you get to meet other moms and you're not alone. Not that you want to be, like you say, a part of this club, because I never wanted to be a part of that club. Never thought I would be a part of that club, but lo and behold, I'm a part of that club. And so, and being a part of that club, I need to be a member, and I need to reach out to other moms, and I need to let them know that you'll survive it. You know, like that's why I do it. You know, I mean, I don't think I'm Superwoman because I'm not. You see me right now and I'll fall apart. You know, I was just telling Rita, I hope you know, I'm telling Rita I'm moving back out to Seabrook where my son played baseball at. You know, like you're saying, he give mama every time I ride past that field, and I got to ride past this field every day to go to my new home. Oh my God, the emotions that pour out of me is just amazing. So, you know, I still need help too. You know, and that's why I continue to do what I do, and even with the moms, if I can get back involved with that. So, yeah.
So, Diana, you said you were 18 in about 2016. So you're, I guess, what we would call not a millennial. What would we call her, Matthew?
I think it should be Generation Z.
You're a Generation Z. So you probably communicate by texting. Am I right?
I feel like I grew up in between both.
Okay.
You're Zennial.
Yeah.
Okay. So we now have services that you can get information by text, telephone call. What else, Lorena? The good old snail mail, email.
Right. This portal.
Our portal. So how do you like that service? Have you been able to use that service?
I've actually haven't used the service.
Do you think that that's a good medium to have for our younger families or younger victims of crime? Because it seems like young people always, you know, they text quite a bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good way to get in contact with younger victims. Like you said, we are always on our phones. And I think now with this generation, they don't really like to be on the phone. So through text is probably the best way, or their preferred way.
So Lorraine, I know we've talked about this. We'll be rolling that out soon, right?
Right. So the portal, we just went live in 2019. So Diana, at the time it didn't exist, but just to kind of tell everybody about the portal, it's a free service offered by the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office. The portal service was designed for victims. It was in collaboration between Rich Norcross from CSI Technology and former victim witness coordinators. And they had a vision of creating an automated victim witness notification service. So victims who are registered can receive immediate information about their cases and link to victim services. And the way the process works is the prosecutor's office receives a criminal case. Then our Office of Victim-Witness Advocacy sends out an initial letter to the victim, letting them know that we have been notified that they are a victim of the crime. This initial letter also includes an authentication code that you'll need to register for the victim witness portal. Once you input your code, you create a profile through using your email address. The victim will now receive notifications from the office electronically. And there's going to be hyperlinks on this portal giving you access to different things. So you'll have the option to view new notifications, court notifications. You'll have the option to view all your notifications for your active cases. You'll have the option to upload documents and images to your victim impact statement. So let's say you're requesting restitution and you have receipts or estimates, you can go ahead and upload those through the portal. You can also, you have option to post a message. So let's say you work 8:30 to 4:30 during our business hours and don't have time to call us. You know, at night, you can send a message through the portal system. And then the next morning we go ahead and read it. It'll show up on our inbox and we'll be able to answer your questions about your case. You'll also be able to view all your active cases that you're involved in. So unfortunately, sometimes you might be a victim of multiple cases. So you'll be able to see all of them through the portal, and you'll be able to create a new victim impact statement. So we're hoping that this year we'll be able to have the feature to have the mobile app where you'll be able to do all of this by the use of your phone. So how many times do we take pictures with our phone? You know, just the fact that how easy it's going to be to just upload those to the portal and send those off to our unit. So I'm excited.
So we're saving our money and trying to spend it wisely to make our job simpler, but also to make access simpler for our victims as well.
And also to add, I forgot, on the portal, there's different tabs. So there's tabs for a resource tab. There's a frequently asked questions tab, and the resource tab has state, local, and federal resources. And you don't have to have a case with our office to see this. So it's open to the public, anybody can see it. And you can do that by visiting www.bwportalnj.com.
And as with all of our programs, all of the resources that we mentioned and additional resources will be posted in the comments. So if our listeners would like to access them, they can access them by looking in the comments on our Facebook page and our YouTube once we post this video. So
I'm gonna reference as well, just I think it's something that I learned when I first learned more about the office, is that when Lorena and Rita were talking about all the things that they do in terms of the office, and then the individual cases for either Kim or Diana, they got all these kind of interactions and notifications. But I was really kind of mind blowing when I heard from Lorena that the office turns out thousands and thousands and thousands of these notifications every year. And that is kind of where this is going in terms of the portal being able to access all that information and streamline that communication. But because, as you're hearing from Ms. Kim and Ms. Diana, that all the level of care that the office wants to give to each case and the total number of notifications is so high that this will really help with that. And I love hearing the kind of description that you have, Ms. Kim, in terms of the rock or the sense of family, and that idea of this year's theme of building trust. And I think that's such a huge part of this, is being able to work alongside each other in partnership and build up that trust.
Absolutely. So I'm going to pivot just a little bit, and we are going to talk a little bit about our grief recovery method training. This is the brainchild of Rita Carvalpi, who pitched it to me prior to her retirement, and her and Lorena just dove right in. And this is a continuing service that we're able to offer not only to our victims, but anyone in our county who has suffered a violent crime or lost a loved one to violent crime. And we're hoping that because we want to be the best and the most recovery-friendly community that we can be, we are looking for ways to see if we can extend this service to our community members who have lost a loved one to opiate addiction as well, because there's a level of trauma that comes with that as well. So stay tuned. But I'm going to ask Rita to talk about the program, and then I'm going to ask Lorena to talk about how we are pivoting to remain able to deliver this program during COVID times. So Rita, you first talk about the program and the training that you and Lorena had to undergo.
Okay, back in February of 2018, prior to my retirement in April, I learned of the grief recovery method originating out of Bend, Oregon. And they would take you in and train you through a very encumbersome 4-day training, which was probably 12 hours if not more, a day, including homework in the evening. I'll never forget, that was actually the weekend that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and I was in Virginia instead of being home and having a house party or something, rooting on, our team. But it was a very well spent weekend. We left that training, and Lorena and I obtained our certification as grief recovery specialists. After that, we were able to do support work with the grief recovery method. And prior to the pandemic, we held approximately 5 to 6 different sessions. They were 8-week sessions, and we had anywhere from 4 to 12 in a group, and provided this educational based program. What was different from this, as opposed to what you spoke about earlier, Prosecutor, when you met Kim in the support group that we launched back in the office, was that component was with a psychologist, licensed psychologist, and we did education along with his therapeutic instruction. This is based solely on education. And the purpose of the grief recovery method is to help you complete your relationship to the pain, the isolation, and the loneliness that was caused by this significant emotional loss. It doesn't have to be a loss of a loved one through death or divorce. There's actually more than 40 life events that can produce feelings of grief. I've heard most recently, and that was Queen Elizabeth, talk about the grief that she was experiencing with the loss of her husband, is that grief is the price we pay with love. And recovery from loss is achieved by a series of small choices. And it's our job to explain those action choices to you and to guide you in helping you take them.
So how many sessions have we done so far?
I'd say roughly between 6 to 8 sessions, 8-week sessions over the course of 2 years prior to the pandemic hitting.
Right. So when the pandemic hit and we knew that it was not safe to meet in person, we had to pivot. And I was like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And we were not permitted to do a virtual grief recovery method until these 2 ladies got trained. So I'm going to ask Lorena to talk a little bit about that training. Where are you at in the training? And when do you envision we're going to be able to start back up with our virtual sessions?
Right. So you said, think out the box. What can we do? Offer virtual training, the virtual session. So me and Rita just completed our training to offer these sessions in a virtual platform. So we hope to start it next month. I think we had a projected date, I believe, of May 10th. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rita. So we are just waiting for our certifications and hope to get started. But yes, the plan is to start next month. And it's going to begin with one-on-one sessions until they can offer us the option to also provide group sessions.
So I want our listeners and our stakeholders to stay tuned. Look at our Facebook page, our Instagram page for notices, because once we are able to schedule our training, we will put flyers up and there will be a registration process. So stay tuned. We're hoping to get that back on board no later than June, right? So please stay tuned for the information. So we're gonna wrap it up, but I'm gonna go back to our two members of our victim family, but our family, and ask you to give, just imagine that you were coming into contact with someone who was at the beginning of the process that you've gone through at this point. And tell me in maybe a minute what you would say to that person about the Office of Victim-Witness Advocacy and what they have to offer to individuals that are experiencing, because if you're a victim of a crime, that's the most important crime to you. I always remember that when I'm, talking to people, whether it be a serious violent crime or it be a less serious crime. When I say that, I mean, something that's not considered as serious in our state, right? It's the most important crime to you. But what would you say to them about the young men and women that are here in our office, that are here to serve them and be their advocate and also liaison to the assistant prosecutors and the detectives in the office? I'm going to start with you, Ms. Kim.
Well, I got a minute. I would just say, please get in touch with Lorena as soon as possible, and be open to all the services that that y'all have to offer, because y'all offer a lot of services, and it really is a lot of good services and a lot of support. So I would definitely say, definitely get in touch with the victim advocates as soon as possible.
Thank you. And how about you, Miss Diana? What would you say to someone who was in your shoes that had to go through the process?
I would just say not to be scared, to have faith, because everybody there is just there to help you and to make you feel safe and welcome. And they're there to have your back, and they will have your back, and they'll prove it time and time again. And I couldn't thank them enough. Everybody in the prosecutor's office, my family was so grateful. We had Lorena and Sarah and so many other people. And I think the Spanish community would really, really benefit with the services. And that's about it. Just not to be scared, because I know some people are scared to reach out.
So because you touched on that note of the fear, I want to take this opportunity to give a message to our Spanish community. If you are speaking of being afraid to come forward as a victim of crime, we want our Spanish community, particularly our undocumented Spanish community, to know that if you are a victim or a witness to a crime, we do not care about your immigration status. Our Attorney General has made it very clear we are not to ask about your immigration status. You do not need to be fearful of coming forward. There's a saying that evil flourishes when good men remain silent. And I'm proud of the efforts that the state of New Jersey has taken to reassure every victim, and including undocumented immigrants, that we do not want you to suffer in silence. We want you to know you can come forward and there will be no consequences. So thank you for reminding me of that, so I can make sure to reinforce that. That's coming from the top law enforcement officer of our county. I want no one to feel fearful of coming forward because they are a victim or a witness to a crime. So thank you, Ms. Diana, for reminding me to say that. Lorena, do you have any closing words?
I just want to thank our participants for accepting to join us today. Like I said, meeting victims in the very first moments, you're meeting them at their worst possible moments. And I'm glad to hear this feedback. It makes me feel good, like I did my job right. So thank you. It was very encouraging and uplifting to hear those words.
And you do your job right. And that's because you learned from one of the best. So I'm going to turn it over to Rita to see if she has any closing words as well.
Well, I just want to say thank you, prosecutor, for helping me fulfill just a wonderful, wonderful career that I had with the office, and actually still having a handle in continuing to help our crime victims in Cumberland County. If anything we said tonight method, I encourage you to reach out to Lorena. We can talk more about that on a different forum. And also to know that when you're talking about recovery from loss, it's actually hard work. and
Artwork,
we're going to
okay.
help you artwork,
Yeah.
and we're going to help you. We're going to help you with that. So, heart,
Let's all leave with our heart.
heart.
So I want to say thank you to our guests. Thank you to Matthew for making sure this stays all together. Thank you to Lorena, and thank you to I'm going to give her a shout out, my Riri, for leaving us a wonderful legacy and culture of building trust and engaging our victims to make sure that they're taken care of in Cumberland County. I'm Jennifer Webb McCrae from the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office, and we're signing off in Crime Victims' Rights Week, celebrating the resilience of all of our amazing victims of crime who come back to help the community. Thank you so much.
Virtual hug.
Yes.